Hey everyone, this is Catherine from Research Rockstar. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're going to talk about a topic that I am very passionate about, and that is the topic of behavioral economics. And I'm very happy today because I happen to have a friend and colleague with us who is also an enthusiast about behavioral economics. My friend Marcy Updike is the Vice President of Customer Insights and Analytics at ClearSurance. And welcome, Marcy.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Could you just tell folks briefly what ClearSurance does?
Sure. I'm fairly new to ClearSurance. I've been in the market research industry for over 15 years, and I hate to age myself, but ClearSurance is a company that basically we are a crowdsourcing platform, and we allow consumers to come to our site. They can rate and review their insurance company. So that way, if someone else is shopping for insurance, they go to the site and they can check out reviews and stuff on what people have had to say about different insurance companies. Right now, we're focused on the auto and homeowners insurance as well as renters, but we plan to add more platforms. So if you think about it, people go to Amazon and they read reviews for a $10 book or something. All we're doing is trying to elevate the level of research that consumers can do and help them make smarter insurance decisions by giving them a platform so they can hear what other people have said about their insurance company.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's an awesome idea for a company because I know just as a general consumer, I recently had to buy new homeowners insurance and it was a nightmare.
Yes.
So
Yes. Oh, yes.
a little overwhelming. So
Mm-hmm.
so a really cool company. So thanks for being here today. My first question is for people who may be watching this video who may be new to behavioral economics, people always ask me for book recommendations. Do you have any favorite books in this field?
I do. I actually have two that probably many of your viewers have heard before, but there's the Dan Ariely book on Predictably Irrational. That's a nice, entertaining read, as well as informative. So if I'm talking to colleagues who are just starting to explore behavioral economics, I usually send them to that book first. It's a good read and it will capture your attention. Then the second book that I love is probably one that I know, Catherine, you've read before. It's the Thinking Fast and Slow. And as you can see, I have lots of tabs. I would call this sort of the textbook of behavioral economics. And it is a harder read. It will take you a little while to get through it, but it's got a plethora of detail in it and lots of information. It's a really good way to get deeper into the topic.
Excellent. It's this, I swear, is a coincidence. I was going to share my two favorite books, the same ones. So these are
Yeah.
also the books that I always recommend to people, and I really appreciate your assessment of them because I agree, Predictably Irrational is a little bit more friendly read, but I also agree with
Yes.
you that the Daniel Kahneman book, it has so many experiments in it, and I really appreciate that
Yeah.
because it's great to have people generalize BE lessons for us, but as a researcher myself, I always like to see the original data, and I love reading about all these amazing experiments that people in that field have done.
And that would be the other thing I would tell people. You can read these books, and they're classics. They're timeless. I mean, they're just so important to the whole topic. But spend some time going online and looking for research reports that a lot of that will be mentioned in these books. But there's so many out there, and just start reading them, and you'll be amazed at how long this study has been going on and the number of experiments that have been done.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. So we definitely recommend those books. Um, I'd like to move on to a topic of one of the key concepts that we have in behavioral economics and help our listeners think about how they can apply some of the key concepts of behavioral economics to their work in market research and customer insights. So one of the concepts in behavioral economics is loss aversion. So loss aversion is a really key concept. And the story I like to tell to kind of explain to people easily what loss aversion is about is, imagine you're walking down the street one day and you find a $100 bill. And think about how
Mhm.
that feels. You found a $100 bill. And imagine a few weeks go by and you're walking down the street and you lose your wallet and there was $100 in it. So now you've lost $100. What do you think you feel more? The joy of finding $100 or the pain of losing $100? And
Mhm.
according to behavioral economics, the answer, of course, is that you feel the pain more. So losing $100 actually affects you more and has a stronger impact on you than gaining $100. I think advertisers have known about this for a long time, but I don't know that they called it loss aversion. But of course, for years, we've seen ads where people talk about last chance, buy now, or as we do at Research Rockstar, save your seat before they run out. So, from your point of view, as a market researcher who applies behavioral economics, how might loss aversion as a concept apply to your work?
Oh yeah, yeah. Loss aversion is a great concept. So I sort of think of it in a couple of different ways. One is how we motivate individuals, and I'm going to share a story about. I don't remember who the academic was, who the person was that ran the experiment, but there was a study done where they looked at TV sales, and they were incentivizing some sales reps to sell a specific type of TV by telling them, if you sell this, we're going to give you this much in commission. And then there was another group where they said, okay, we're going to pay you this much, and if you don't sell that type of TV, if you don't meet your quota, then we're going to take money away from you at the end of the month. And you can probably guess, maybe from your introduction, which one did better. But Group B, the one that was going to lose the money at the end, did better in terms of making the sales, in terms of reaching their target. So if you think about how we try and motivate individuals into participate in our research, this is one area. One thing that we've done in some of the research is to offer people information for participating. So if you participate in our research, then you get to learn something in return. So we try and frame it where maybe using loss aversion, where they would be missing out. They would lose something if they didn't participate, because they could lose some valuable information. So that's one way, is to think about it in terms of how can you motivate people to participate. And oftentimes we simply throw some money at somebody to try and get them, but there may be other ways. As a matter of fact, Dan Ariely wrote a book recently on motivation, and it was again a nice easy read, but I would recommend it to anybody who's thinking more about this topic. The other area is really in the types of questions that we ask. So, for example, how do we frame questions around cost, how much something costs, or a discount versus a surcharge? So there's ways that we can think about how people react to a loss that may cause them to answer questions a different way on a survey. Perhaps maybe one of the ways that I've really seen it work the best for me, anyways, is in talking to senior management. So oftentimes I'd be in meetings and we'd be talking about the different types of projects we could consider, or what's new services or changes they want to make to existing products. And oftentimes I would use loss aversion when promoting actually the need to do research. So talking to them about, well, if you don't do this and you've made this bad decision, this is what the cost is going to be. This is what you could be having to pay out, versus if we did the research, yeah, there's a cost to it, but it's far less than maybe if you didn't do it. So that is another way I think that perhaps researchers that are watching this can consider using, another way they can consider applying loss aversion.
Marcy, I love this. So, just to recap, there were three specific examples that you gave that I think our viewers are going to enjoy. One is using the idea of loss aversion as a way to leverage how to improve participation rates in research, which is a problem for all of us, whether we're recruiting people to take surveys or participate in in-depth interviews or whatever. Getting people to participate in research is really hard. So I love the idea of using loss aversion as a way to find ways to increase participation rates. Second, you talked about using it as this concept as a way to inform actually how you ask questions and test ideas within, say, a questionnaire instrument. And third, you mentioned using it as a way to manage your colleagues, right? How do I persuade people by putting something in the context of loss aversion? So I love that you're using this key concept in so many different ways. Another key concept, of course, in behavioral economics is priming. And
Mm.
Daniel Kahneman in his book talks a lot about priming and some really cool experiments there. Can you talk to me a little bit about how priming as a concept has influenced how you design research or maybe even how you report research results?
Sure. So one thing that I would say about priming is that sometimes I like to use it, but oftentimes I'm trying to avoid it. And what I mean by that is uh, if I'm writing a question, I have to remember it's reading what I've done in terms of behavioral economics and stuff. It's reminded me that how we phrase something, how the words that we use could be priming a specific answer. So in the insurance industry, there's a lot of applications out there. So when you're going to apply for insurance, you have to fill out an application. And fairly recently, I've been really looking at a lot more of those applications and exploring how the words that are being used and how that might be leading somebody to answer questions a certain way. And the same thing goes with when you're doing market research. So, for example, in the insurance space, if I'm looking at an application and it asks me, do you participate in any of these risky activities? Well, priming people, I'm sort of almost letting them know ahead of time that I think these are risky activities. And if you're filling out an insurance application, that's probably not a good thing. So that's one thing I would say is, looking at your questionnaires and trying to, when you don't want to, try to avoid priming, make it being sensitive to the fact that the words that you use could lead people to answer a certain way. If you're asking people to use words to describe your brand and you use something, say, how would you describe this exciting brand? Well, you're sort of priming people by, giving them that word exciting ahead of time. The other way is when I do want to use priming is I've noticed more and more, it seems like, and others hopefully would agree, but I've noticed more and more that the value of the value of the information we're getting from online surveys is a concern. And by that I mean there's so many panel companies and everything, and everybody's trying to figure out the best way of getting participants to give the most honest answers and reliable and can be used in your research. So it's a real concern. So how do you do that? Yeah, there's a lot of ways you can do that by asking questions that sort of make sure that the participant is staying engaged and stuff. But priming could be used at the beginning of the survey to remind them of or help prime them in terms of the expectation that you're going to, that the honesty is part of this. So those are sort of the key areas that I think of when I think of priming. In terms of the reporting, I haven't done a whole lot more. I haven't used priming a whole lot when it comes to the reporting. It's mostly been in the questionnaire side and looking at how I'm phrasing questions.
Got it. Got it. Well, those are great examples. Thank you so much, Marcy. Now, in terms of the reporting side, something that I've experimented with a little bit, although not in a very rigorous way yet, but I'd be curious to say, or what I would say is other people can certainly experiment with this. I have been experimenting a little bit with the idea of telling the reader why the research is important before I give them the research results. Because if I'm sort of priming them on the concept of this is a piece of research that's going to help you figure out how to make more money, or this is a research that's going to show you how to better thrill your clients, and really kind of, instead of just like coming out to the facts, but really kind of priming them on, oh, okay, this is about making more money, or oh, this really is about improving customer loyalty, and kind of using that as priming. Again, I haven't done a rigorous experiment, but it is an idea of how you could sort of use priming as a way to make sure that when you start showing your actual data, that people have already been primed to perceive it that way.
Yeah, actually, you remind me, Catherine. One time I was giving a presentation on behavioral economics, and it was to a room full of insurance agents. And I started the presentation by having just throwing up a slide with lots of words on it, that words like thought-provoking, interesting, idea generating, things like that. And the whole goal was that I wanted them to walk away from the presentation feeling like they learned something new, that it was thought provoking, that it was a different idea, or it was something that they could put into practice.
Oh, that is awesome. And what an easy experiment that would be to do if we could do your presentation twice, once with and once without priming, and then look at the post, the speaker feedback forms that you usually collect at these things afterwards. That would be really awesome.
Yeah.
And that's what I am encouraging people, when I teach behavioral economics, what I'm often encouraging people to do is experiment. Take this concept and do small experiments, because I think some of the things that we learn from a behavioral economics can be applied in a lot of different ways, as you've just shown us. But it's going to vary. It's going to vary by your company culture. It's going to vary by what markets you're doing research on, and so forth. So I've been encouraging people to do experiments whenever possible to see, is this something that really does apply to your work?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've even used it at home with my family. I have two small kids, so one day I was getting ready to make lunch, and I asked them ahead of time. I said, "What goes into a grilled cheese sandwich?" And they're 7 and 8, and they're kind of looking at me strange, like you forgot how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. But then they said, bread, cheese, And so a little while later, I asked them, "What do you want for lunch?" And they said, "Grilled cheese sandwich."
Amazing, huh? Very effective. That's great. But don't worry, I won't tell your kids. Your kids are the experiment. Marcy, thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time today. It's such a great area, and I really appreciate getting to talk with researchers like you, people who are real thought leaders in terms of taking all of these really amazing concepts from behavioral economics and figuring out how to apply them to improve the work of market research and customer insights. So thank you for being with me here today. Some people may already know that Research Rockstar has a class on behavioral economics. For those of you who don't know, here's some information. Of course, you can learn more about it at training.researchrockstar.com. It's a fun class because not only do we go over the concepts, but we work on some homework assignments as a group to really figure out how people can apply BE to specific things like recruiting research participants, getting better data quality from surveys, and even how to present data as effectively as possible. And Marcy, if people want to get a hold of you, is it okay if they contact you on LinkedIn?
Please do. Please do.
Excellent. So I encourage people to get in touch with Marcy. She's a great contact to have in our profession. And for anybody who has any questions for me, of course, you can always catch me at researchrockstar.com. But of course, you can also catch me on Fridays on YouTube, where I do a YouTube live stream. And you can also follow me on Twitter at ResearchRocks. Thanks everybody for your time, and I hope you found this to be useful. Take care.
Thank you.